Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar sponsored by Oracle NetSuite, featuring the Peloton team who's with us today. We're going to talk about slaying the dragon, leveraging NetSuite Enterprise Performance Management to help you escape the tyranny of spreadsheets. So I hope you're hyped up for that today. You got your battle clothes on and you're ready to tackle this beast. My name is Liz Briggs, and it's always a great time to be here with you and be your host. And of course, I want to help you get the most out of the program today. So there's a few things I will highlight. You can utilize the GoToWebinar control panel to ask questions and access the handouts. And so I see that Mark has already written in to say hello and let us know that he is joining from wet and windy Marshfield today. If you want to write in, say hi, let us know where you're joining from. We'd love to give you a warm welcome. Really glad you're all here. Today's program is 1 hour. We will launch 4 polling questions. As long as you respond to 3 of the 4 polling questions, you remain logged in for at least 50 minutes, you will qualify for a CPE credit. You can access your CPE certificate from your Corsa dashboard. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn if you're out there on LinkedIn, and I always recommend following our sponsor companies and the speakers as well. We have an hour together today, which is great, but we hope this is the start of a relationship, the start of learning, and the start of new connections. So LinkedIn's a great place to make that happen. I want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, Oracle NetSuite. NetSuite is so committed and dedicated to providing educational programs like this to help you grow and advance your team. NetSuite has everything you need to grow all in one place. The NetSuite supports over 37,000 customers in over 219 countries and territories all around the world. They are the world's first cloud company, so dedicating to, I should say ERP cloud, dedicated to delivering business applications using the internet, of course, and they offer ERP applications, financial inventory management, HR, professional services automation, omni-channel e-commerce. We're going to be talking about EPM, Enterprise Performance Management, today. That really ties in with NetSuite's overall goal, right? Is that if you have unified information, NetSuite believes that businesses, your business specifically, can achieve your vision. So with that, it's my pleasure to welcome Philip Peck and Carissa Welliver today from Peloton Consulting Group. Philip is the Vice President of Finance and Transformation and Advisory Services. Carissa is a NetSuite sales executive. Philip comes to us with decades of experience working hands-on on projects, helping companies like yours, and Carissa has deep experience as well, helping companies optimize and grow and scale using NetSuite. So Philip and Carissa, welcome. Carissa, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your background, and then we'll turn things over to Philip. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Liz. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. So like Liz said, my name's Carissa Welliver. I am the NetSuite Sales and Alliances Liaison for Peloton Consulting with Oracle NetSuite. And prior to my role here, I spent a number of years directly at NetSuite in both, excuse me, their new business as well as account management organization. If anything about the EPM products sparks your interest today, I would encourage you to reach out to Philip or myself after this webinar to learn more about these tools, as well as how Peloton Consulting can help get your organization implemented on these tools. We have a lot of great content today. Philip is a fantastic presenter here, and so without further ado, Philip, I'll pass it over to you.
Carissa, thank you so much. As Carissa and Liz said, I am super excited to be here today to share best practices, insights, and how you can leverage the NetSuite EPM platform to drive business transformation for all of you. So just a little bit about myself. I've spent my entire 35+ year career in FP&A, finance, and controllership domain areas, working in various corporate roles as well as management consulting, helping organizations explore the art of the possible and adapt leading edge practices across the entirety of FP&A, finance, and controllership. I consider myself a finance of the future evangelist. I'm a recognized thought leader, public speaker, charter member of the AFP FP&A Advisory Council. So with that, just a quick little blurb, get us going here. Slaying the dragon. Hopefully everyone loves this picture. I thought it was pretty cool because it kind of tees up the whole discussion here. and the whole concept of leveraging NetSuite to EPM to escape the tyranny of spreadsheets. In terms of the agenda, we're talking about introductions, and we'll do a quick blurb on who Peloton Consulting Group is. I'd like to then anchor ourselves really around the state of the state. There's many dynamics in the ecosystem around which we live that impact FP&A, finance, the controllership function, and accounting as well. Then I'd like to wade us into, if you will, something that I consider to be an FP&A and finance manifesto. It's what we as practitioners need to deliver for organizations today. We're then going to speak to some best practices, going to talk about these elements in large part process and functional centric, but always with an eye towards the enabling technology. Then we absolutely want to spend some time around the NetSuite Enterprise Performance Management, or EPM Cloud. A couple triggers or foundational success factors when you think about implementing a solution, specifically around change management solution adoption. Then a couple ideas about getting started. So we've worked with many, many clients, and I think we have some tips and tricks to help all of you to advance your digital finance transformation journey. So with that, let's talk about Peloton. We're a full service implementation consulting firm offering advisory, consulting, and managed services. The solutions that we deliver for our clients span a wide variety of domain areas: enterprise performance management, ERP, enterprise resource planning, supply chain management, human capital management, CX, platform as a service, warehouse management, Primavera, and related domain areas. Focusing on helping organizations drive digital transformation across their business, we provide a best practices approach to delivering solutions for our clients, incorporating business process design, technology expertise, change management, and organizational alignment. Our Fit to Modern implementation playbook improves solution quality and adoption, reduces risk, provides better alignment to industry best practices, and helps lower the total cost of ownership. We're an Oracle and NetSuite partner with certified experienced professionals bringing industry functional and technical expertise. Our focus areas from an industry perspective span a wide variety: retail, CPG, manufacturing. You can certainly see all these. And within those domain areas, we place a very strong emphasis around industry-specific solutions. In terms of Peloton overall, we're global. We are based in the United States, but we have offices across the globe. We certainly have our consultants who are based in the US, but we also have nearshore resources as well as offshore resources to help deliver the most cost-effective solutions for our clients. In terms of projects, you see thousands. In terms of ERP, SCM, and HCM, 400 plus, EPM and analytics, 550 plus a wide, close to 200 application managed services clients. In terms of some awards, real quickly, we've been on the Inc. 5000 list 7+ years, a number of other rewards from CIO, from best places to work, but one that I'd specifically like to call out that we're very, very proud of, and that's the one at the far bottom corner: Best Workplaces for Women to Work in 2022. I think that's just a commitment we make as an organization, and I think we're certainly very proud of that. One thing I do want to call out, though, that's not explicitly called out on the slide here, in terms of our commitment to NetSuite, we're a rapidly growing alliance partner where we have obviously years and years of experience implementing ERP, as well as what we consider the Oracle overlay products specifically built for NetSuite. When you think about the EPM, Enterprise Performance Management Suite, planning and budgeting, account reconciliations, as well as NetSuite Analytics Warehouse, we leverage all that deep expertise that we've done in the Oracle space and now deliver that with NetSuite with all of our clients. Obligatory NASCAR slide, we would show this, and these are just a representative set of some of our NetSuite clients that we've done work with. So I believe, Liz, we're ready for polling question number 1.
That sounds great. Thank you, Philip, for that excellent overview. And we'll go ahead and launch the first polling question. Our finance and FP&A practitioners spend the balance of their time on routine, lower value added tasks. So we're kind of starting out here just at the bottom, getting us all thinking about where our finance and FP&A practitioners are spending their time. So obviously We would like our finance and FP&A practitioners to spend their time doing the critical thinking, business partnership, high value added activities, but we all know that sometimes FP&A can get bogged down with data collection, manipulation, reconciliation of data, correcting the data, sometimes having to go back to create reports, format them. I will admit that in the past as an analyst, I spent a lot of time formatting reports in Excel and then distributing them and all of that. So if you find that your team right now is still spending time on lower value added activities, then there's definitely solidarity there. But our hope is that we can help you elevate where you're spending your time and focusing your energy. So we'll just get a pulse on the room today, and then we will get the presentation back over to Philip. So Philip, I thought it was really neat. You mentioned you worked on AFP's FP&A certification when that launched. I was following that really closely. I think it's fascinating and a really great body of knowledge. So good work on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's take a look here at the responses from those in the audience today. So we're seeing almost half of our audience, actually, including strongly agree plus agree, over half of our audience are agreeing with this, that yes, still spending a lot of time on routine, lower value added activities. But we do have many people, close to 30% of our audience, who say disagree. So you've found ways to kind of rise above the day-to-day. Let's talk about how we can do that, because we have a good core group here who I'm sure would love to join those who are already spending time on those higher order thinking business partnership activities. So Philip, I think we have a good pulse of the audience, and let's go ahead and get back to your slides.
Great. And before I dive in here, just a quick observation on those polling results. As you indicated, Liz, that's definitely a very positive trend. Having been in this space for the large part of my career, for a long, long time, the pendulum would have been more like 65 to 70% of people stuck in the drudgery, stuck in the lower value added. So I think we're making progress, but obviously there's a lot more opportunity on the horizon. So let's set the fabric really around 2024 and beyond on economic trends. It's a bit of the macroeconomic landscape that all of us as practitioners, finance and FP&A and accounting, and even broader than that, need to deal with. No question, there's still a lot of economic uncertainty. As we read the news every single day, I'm very passionate about following the Wall Street Journal and other organizations that deliver information. Uncertainty is still around us. We don't know how to read the winds. As much as COVID is behind us, thankfully, but there's still some dynamics where, as a world, we're still transitioning and dealing with some of the dynamics and the aftermath, if you will. Something that is increasingly important for virtually all organizations is sustainability and ESG. Many of the regulatory bodies are now mandating, even the Securities and Exchange Commission, all of the different European regulatory bodies, the state of California themselves. This is becoming increasingly important from a compliance, from a reporting, from a moving the dial, from a planning perspective that we need to be mindful of. Of course, VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's here. Everything we have to deal with is just challenging. The war for talent, data, 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 the explosion. Customers demand more, and customers demand more in many different dimensions. Acceleration of digital transformation. If we had been here roughly a little over a year ago, no one would be talking about generative AI. Everybody is talking about generative AI now, accelerated digital transformation. No question, we still deal with cash. We still deal with margin pressures and kind of the pendulum swinging back to more of a regionalization from a globalization. What does all that mean? Just more demands on us as finance, FP&A, and accounting practitioners. So the net result is speed, agility, data-driven decision-making is of paramount importance. So let's step back for a moment and talk about, as we think about finance, FP&A, accounting, what tools and processes do we have in place to enable us to deliver what the organization needs? And then what key questions do we need to answer? So thinking about tools and processes, we model, we plan and forecast. That's what we do. It's what FP&A does. We report, we analyze the result, We look for more advanced analytics, finding the needle in the haystack. We're constantly looking to do, well, what if? What if something changes? What if we flex a driver? Can I simulate business performance? What about scenario plans, contingency plans? What about resource allocation? Nothing is more important for an organization. Often we have to do allocations. We need to understand whether our products, our customers, our channels are profitable. How do we manage data? The management of data, the data about the data, updating hierarchies and so forth. Fundamental things that we have to do. We have to close the books. We have to consolidate the books. We have to do account reconciliations. And then all the processes that support all of that. So these key questions are very, very relevant. Are we executing efficiently and effectively with minimal effort? Do we actually have visibility and transparency to underlying business drivers? Can we get information to the right people in a timely manner in a way that they can consume it? Can we allocate and reallocate almost in real time as business conditions change? Do we deal with the complexity and uncertainty? And are we managing working capital and cash flow as efficiently as we can? So challenges. We had our polling question before, but let's delve a bit deeper here. This is what we would typically see, the top 10 list. Everyone loves top 10 lists across FP&A and finance. Start first and foremost, tyranny of spreadsheets. Virtually everything many organizations need to do spanning the entirety of finance is supported by spreadsheets. I collect data, I transform data, I reconcile data, I model things, I hand information across the organization, I report, I consolidate it up, I do my account reconciliations. It's all supported by a fragmented labyrinth of disconnected Excel spreadsheets. Excel inherently is not bad, very, very powerful, but it serves certain things well and doesn't do other things well at all. There's so many considerations in play, hence the term tyranny of spreadsheets. Inefficient, manual, people-dependent processes. Many organizations are people-dependent. The Yodas or the Jedi Knights, they're the only ones who know how to navigate through the fog to get things done. And guess what? They're probably using Excel. Long cycle times, the bane of many people's existence. It can take, candidly, not days, but weeks to do a forecast. Or how about the close and consolidation of the books? What's the cycle time to produce a report? Number 4 is then the Herculean efforts. Put aside the cycle time, just the sheer amount of human effort to collect the information, transform it, distribute, report, format, you name it. From a planning perspective, a big challenge is just silos, fragmentation around all the different elements that contribute to the financial plan. Inconsistent assumptions, inconsistent levels of detail, living outside in Excel. We mentioned this earlier, poor visibility into the drivers, then lack of system-enabled driver-based planning. I'm going to speak to this shortly, but from my perspective, it's really the crux or of paramount importance to have that as the foundation of the world of modeling, planning, and forecasting. Data, master data, metadata, lack of good tools, governance, processes to do that, inability to rapidly allocate, reallocate resources. And the last one, it speaks to many organizations who they struggled to move away from the past. And technology debt could be a literal technology. It could be archaic systems. It could be these old Excel models and black boxes, even Access databases that they just really struggle to break away from. So that's some of the top 10 we certainly see. With that in mind, there has to be a better way, right? So manifesto, a lot here, but I think it's very, very relevant, especially as we're moving into the modern finance paradigm. We're asked by organizations to be indispensable business partners. But what does that really mean? We need to help drive strategy and execution. We need to embrace modern tools, technology, and better processes. We need to help develop accurate plans and forecasts, help optimize allocation of scarce resources, look into the future, tell us where we're going, and enable across the organization optimized decision making. Some of those elements, I love the mantra, analytics at the speed of thought. Like if we can think about it, we should be able to turn the crank, produce some financial outcomes, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and help the organization. In more real time, model, simulate, plan. leverage driver-based planning. And I'll speak more about this. The notion of a forward-looking planning horizon. It doesn't end at the year end. It's constantly looking across the bow to get visibility into the future. Integrated planning, linking the operational world and the financial world. A more dynamic way of navigating and allocating resources, assets, capital. Making sure that we do the absolute best job we can from our financial close, consolidation, and account reconciliation activities. Automate, streamline, make them efficient. Also, be mindful of, we're still in finance. We have a fiduciary responsibility to mitigate risk and have our due diligence. Reporting. Provide self-service reporting so we can do it ourselves and not be beholden to someone else in the organization, but also still provide that, I want to go investigate, ad hoc, robust analysis. And then seamless system-driven data management and integration. So that's the manifesto. That's where we need to go from a broader finance perspective. Let's start talking about some best practices and how to get there. With that, Liz, I think another polling question.
All right, that sounds good. We'll go ahead and launch our second polling question. To what degree do you rely on Excel spreadsheets to support FP&A processes, reporting, consolidation, and other data management processes? So interested in hearing from the audience to what degree you are currently relying on Excel spreadsheets. And we have a comment from someone in our audience today just saying that the laundry list that you provided, Philip, it's a list of the daily problems that this team is facing. And here's the reality, right, is it's hard to imagine something better, let alone accomplishing its implementation. So imagine when you're talking with teams who are facing the hurdles and the obstacles, it probably does seem like a lot to block and tackle the day-to-day things while envisioning and implementing something better. Imagine you'll be able to talk about that, because I think that's probably a really real sentiment that's worthy of a response.
Most definitely. When we think about implementing a better way, inclusive of some process redesign, but obviously enabling tools and technology and whatever you need to do from a data perspective, striking that balance and managing the tension of the A players need to be on every project. So let's say I'm the ultimate program manager. I'm going to go, Liz, Carissa, you need to be on the project because you're the best of the best. Oh, by the way, you also lead our controlling group. You also lead our FP&A function. You're instrumental to pulling together the board presentations or the MBRs. So organizations need to be very, very intentional on how they resource the initiatives, because you have to make progress. You can't wait. You need to accelerate the time to value, do those implementations, reap the benefits, while at the same time still navigating the day-to-day. It's challenging, but I think a way forward is to be intentional around the resource loading across the organization. And candidly, sometimes people augment and they bring in some additional resources to help make it happen.
I love that you mentioned that, because that is a very viable strategy to support taking on a new project, and certainly hope that teams consider that. I do want to share the results of the polling question, and we do have a lot of Excel users and a lot of Excel reliance. So thank you for sharing what your current reliance on Excel is. Philip, you want to just comment a little bit, share some reflections on this polling question, and I'll send it back to your slides.
Sure, just a couple quick comments. Not surprised at all. So I think seeing the whatever it is, 66 or roughly percentage on leveraging Excel. I will say this: it's not that I or industry pundits would say eliminate Excel. It's find where it's appropriate to be used. It's so ubiquitous. It's easy to learn. It continues to have more capabilities and power to it, but just be very mindful of what it should not be doing, and then leveraging like the NetSuite EPM platform to help you do things. So this is skewed high, obviously, but I think as we walk through the presentation here, hopefully some light bulbs will click and people will go, oh, there is a better way. So let me explore that further.
We are
Okay,
at
Liz.
your slide. Are you having any trouble advancing to the next slide?
Oh,
Oh,
all right.
very good. Perfect.
Okay, so we're going to start with some best practices here. And I'm going to start with the foundational driver-based planning. Here happens to be a consumer products example using driver models to plan volume and sales revenue. Before I drill into the example, I want to step back a bit and say, at its most simplistic level, a driver model is an algorithm, an equation of sorts where you say, I have a certain number of elements, drivers, where I want to use assumptions about those drivers, and it can be multiple drivers and layered drivers, to predict a financial outcome. One of the simplest ones might be, I'm planning travel expenses. So I say, how many trips am I taking? What's an average airfare? What's a hotel cost? And so forth, to build up my expected travel expense over time. They can get very sophisticated. But when we think about driver models, the power are, it takes a mental model, which often sits in a person's mind or persons or groups, codifies it, institutionalize it, and then allows you to leverage technology to embed that into your planning. You can plan many/most things using the concept of the driver models. Here, we're predicting ultimately revenue for a CPG company, and you start with kind of, what's my user base? How do I grow that user base or keep them as a customer? So you don't want to lose them. You may have trialists, converters, you get a delta in users, you get a forecasted number of users. Then, you have some assumptions around what they're buying, then some revenue assumptions to get to future revenue. As I'm talking here, you should be thinking, well, wait a minute, that's embedded with drivers and assumptions. Absolutely. When you think about planning anything, pick any industry, and the notion is you build it up based on these series of assumptions. Many, if not most, are operational in nature. Then you need to plan your volume, plan your price, gross and net, start walking down the P&L and thinking about the things that lend themselves to driver relationships. There are many, many benefits of doing that. Speed, efficiency, getting common assumptions across the organization, consistency, and then downstream, like you would show in this case, this feeds all the different planning you need to do as an organization. You think about the value chain. The volume is going to flow through your manufacturing, your distribution, your warehousing, your service over time. Driver-based planning is so foundational for an organization. Keeping going here, a rolling forecast. The concept of a rolling forecast is, why do we stop when we're forecasting? And virtually every organization has to produce a financial forecast that is often fed by operational assumptions and driver models. Why would we stop at year end? The business doesn't stop at year end. The world doesn't stop at year end. Why wouldn't we have a more rolling time horizon to constantly look out into the future, to see opportunities, to see risks, and to be able to react, to be able to simulate, to be able to plan and look at our business performance and make decisions accordingly? Often targets are established from a longer horizon. Depending on the industry, it could be a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, whatever that horizon is. But as we roll that forecast over time, we're constantly updating our expectations. And in this case, there's a performance gap. What can we start doing now relative to that performance gap to impact business performance? The power of the driver modeling comes into place because that helps us very rapidly, efficiently, and effectively turn the crank and produce the new forecast without a Herculean effort that happens in many organizations when they want to do regular annual planning or even forecasting. Business process redesign, fundamental best practice, specifically when we think about moving down a finance digital transformation path, but just as a general best practice. As we look to improve our capabilities and live up to our finance FP&A manifesto, a large part of that is streamline wherever we can our business processes, make them more efficient, make them more effective, and hopefully enable faster, better decisions. This happens to be an example of an organization who stepped back and said, it just takes us way too long to do our regular forecasts. And they spent the time and effort, call it a current state assessment and benchmarking, to say, where do we spend our time? Why are we doing these things? What's the long pole in the tent? How can we do it better? So you can see here in this example, they were able, through just business process design, an 83% reduction in time required to produce a forecast. And certainly there was some automation, and certainly there was some enabling technology. Many benefits. Obviously, you shift the pendulum from lower value added activity to being able to be the business partner, do analysis, add insights, help the organization make better decisions. But also, the real key one here is they were able to forecast significantly more frequently. The number one thing we know about a financial forecast, it will be wrong. Someone that I knew way back in the day when I used to support the Balanced Scorecard Collaborative, and I worked with the founders, Kaplan and Norton, of the Balanced Scorecard, they said, I'd rather be directionally correct than precisely wrong. Get to that answer as fast as you can, tweak it, put the human factor into it, and then make better decisions. Spin a little bit here, and let's talk about reporting and analysis. So a lot of reporting that an organization does, call it the standard reporting. We're going to do variance analysis. We're going to compare actuals to plan, actuals to forecast. We're going to look over time, and you can get somewhat sophisticated, price volume mix analysis, different things. But I think this is helpful when we think about the elements where what adds value about the reporting and analysis. So here we're showing a number of different attributes, and we'll walk these through relatively quickly via the visual. Number one, whatever we're reporting, in this case, it happens to be a pretty important KPI for this organization, close ratio. Orders placed, orders issues. What's our close ratio? Okay, so this is pretty relevant. We want to close more versus less business from a proposal perspective, and that's very, very relevant. Two, make it a trend. What's happening over time? It could be the historical trend. It could be the forecasted trend. Like, what is it trending? That's really important context. Threshold. That's really what we're targeting. So we're saying, hey, in this case, close to 50%. There's various mechanisms to get to that target and the financial implications. But okay, so that's pretty important, the threshold. Now, from an analysis and a forward-looking and predictive, early alert. We're trending down, or we anticipate trending in a manner that soon we're going to hit that threshold in a negative way. Early warning systems, flags, such that the organization can take action sooner than later. With that in mind, you trigger something, dark clouds on the horizon. Well, you need a call to action. So if you trigger the threshold, you go through the threshold, what do you actually do? The concept of the contingency plans, knowing what to do as an organization if that threshold is triggered. This happens to be one KPI, and it's reasonably granular, but you can take this concept and this framework and apply it in a much more aggregated manner as an organization, and embedding the rolling forecast and now the reporting and analytics around it to what do I do in real time. Certainly the forecast impact. So what does it actually mean from a P&L? What does it mean from a working capital now that we anticipate this happening? And then the last piece here, relevance and value, just some context, color commentary around that particular metric. And it might be an array of different metrics. It might just be some dynamics in the industry that are happening. I imagine that people who are impacted by the bridge collapsing around Baltimore, they're doing a lot of this, and they're trying to figure out, oh no, what are we doing? It kind of gives you a sense of why this is so extremely important. Stepping back on the landscape of reporting and analysis, something that I have found throughout my career, and I certainly know at Peloton, we do a lot of this with our clients, is being very intentional at looking at the totality of all the users, who they are, what type of information do they need and when, how are they going to consume that information, what type of analysis are they doing, and kind of what is their role, what is their persona. we need as organizations to optimally align the different types of reporting and analysis along a continuum to those personas, from standard reporting all the way to ad hoc exploration. Standard reporting, your standard books, a briefing book might be compiling things in different way. Dashboards, analytic dashboards, visuals and so forth. Guided analysis, pointing people to go in different ways. Kind of a intuitive way of like, you start at the top, you move sideways, you move down, but guide them. Ad hoc is go anywhere and go everywhere. It's kind of the classic, just the definition of ad hoc. But just being very intentional and aligning the capabilities, the reporting tools and so forth to the stakeholders. Last one on reporting and analysis, it's a continuum. And this is a classic Gartner model of descriptive analytics to diagnostic to predictive to prescriptive. We spend a lot of time typically on what happened. We need to spend more time on why did it happen. And this is an example from a waste to energy company where we really want to spend time and add value is being predictive. What will happen given our driver models, given our assumptions, given what we know about the landscape, and then how can we make it happen? That's the secret sauce. How can we impact the organization and help change the world to deliver more business value? Liz, I think we're ready for number 3.
That sounds great. What a great calling. Number 3, for polling question, number 3, what is your degree of satisfaction with your current annual planning, budget, and forecast process? So interested to hear about the audience's degree of satisfaction with your current budgeting process. And I like how you were talking about the rolling forecasts earlier. I think that can be very helpful to continuously be looking ahead rather than having these kind of points in time where we have only 3 months left of our forecast and we're ramping up trying to do a whole nother 12 months for the following year. Definitely very helpful. And as you are working with clients who are implementing EPM, Philip, what percentage of clients would you say are on rolling forecasts now?
Great question. For the organizations who have completely embraced, or for the most part embraced, more of a driver-based planning mantra and frameworks and kind of sprinkled that and cascaded it through the organization, they're able to turn those rolling forecasts pretty quickly. So it's days. And depending on the nature of that forecast, some organizations, their intra-quarter ones, they do extremely fast, like almost that notion of the flash forecast or quick forecast, versus quarterly ones, they might spend some more time, but it's days, it's not weeks. And they realize, back to that mantra of directionally correct versus precisely wrong, they want to get to the answer as fast as they can, such that organizationally they can make decisions, often hard decisions, as they think about the go forward best way to drive business performance.
Great. And I've closed the polling question. The results are up on the screen. We have definitely a pretty standard bell curve right here with a lot of mostly satisfied, somewhat satisfied, right in the middle.
And that's actually, that's better than I would have expected. So it's that's actually good. Now, that said, I'm sure there's often, or there's going to be, even for those organizations, there's probably some room for improvement. I guess with that, we'll keep going here. And now we're going to turn. We've given you kind of drink from the fire hose in terms of some best practices from a process, from a functional perspective. Now let's actually talk about the NetSuite EPM platform. And I want to anchor everyone first and foremost around kind of the totality of the platform and thinking about it as a connected solution. Kind of walk through some of the elements here and align them to some of the best practice we've been talking about. The platform in and of itself supports demand and driver-based planning. So the ability to build up a plan based on driver assumptions to produce a financial outcome, fundamental capability. The ability to support workforce or labor planning in different ways, the ability to support all the different kinds of OpEx planning. So you've got your, in a typical organization, there's sales, cost of sales, gross margin, but there's often many, many things embedded in OpEx that can be very important. Marketing expenses, R&D expenses, certain things in the supply chain, all the classic G&A expenses, balance sheet planning, cash flow planning, having a system-enabled way of doing that and integrating income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow, very, very powerful. The ability to support scenario modeling and predictive planning. We'll speak a little bit about predictive planning in a moment, but leveraging stochastic algorithms to be able to get a baseline plan. The ability to do allocations and profitability analytics. Like, we have some common costs that we want to allocate to a product, a channel, a customer. Moving sideways a bit into the world of kind of controlling and accounting, the ability to support the financial consolidation, intercompany eliminations, FX rates, all the different elements that come into consolidating and closing the books. How about the actual process itself? Using something to codify the tasks, manage the tasks, track the tasks, monitor the tasks. Account reconciliation. For the world of accounting, it's probably the bane of their existence, the sheer volume, the way that it's, guess what, Excel driven, non-standard across the organization, both from a compliance and the actual matching of transactions. Reporting. Moving away from the Herculean efforts to produce report books, produce management packages, produce standard reports, provide ad hoc analysis, self-service reporting, interactive analytic dashboards, visualization of the information, and then complete seamless Microsoft Office integration. That's really what the NetSuite Enterprise Performance Management solution provides. So a couple slides around just bringing to life a little bit within a solution, what does it really mean? So direct entry planning, kind of the most rudimentary way of getting information into the system, but by no means is that trivial. That's actually very, very important. Think about distributed planning. You might be in your fragmented array of Excel spreadsheets across the organization. What if you could actually do that inside a solution where you're making those changes in the solution, hits the database, and it's in one consolidated place, single source of the truth. So the central repository, inclusive of all the elements that make that solution work, hierarchies, business logic, business rules. That's all part and parcel to the solution. The data forms themselves are designed and optimized based on the user needs. Departmental needs, one department versus another might be slightly different. And there's a balance between having too many versus too few forms. But again, the power is you can configure it the way that you need it. Eliminate the need for those offline templates. Version control is a huge benefit of a solution like this, such that you don't, oh my gosh, that was version 27X, and you have it now just in one solution where you can institutionalize and codify the versions. And again, replacing all those Excel workbooks with a form where you have drop downs that enables you to look at different pull downs. It could be a different entity, a different department, or whatever it is to support your planning needs. Driver-based planning. We talked about this at the conceptual level. Well, how about implementing that inside the technology? This happens to be certain types of relationships here, like facilities expenses. So the solution facilitates the driver-based planning, A times B divided by C, or more complex algorithms to give you that insight into the financial result. As opposed to just inputting facilities expenses, it's built up based on drivers. We can debate the values of the drivers. We often do, because come on, that's what we do in FP&A, but it's codified, it's in the system, and you have visibility to it to see how that impacts financial results. You can also pull drivers from different sources. They can be input or pulled from sources, and let the solution help calculate the values of those drivers. Another powerful element is to actually leverage trends. It could be a year-over-year trend. It could be the last 3 quarters. It could be the trailing 12 months. It could be with seasonality, without seasonality. Very, very powerful of just leveraging the embedded trends in the system to produce the initial value and then allow you to make adjustments. You could look at that number and go, I'm going to make a human adjustment, make a comment, and codify it, but you had a great baseline starting point because that's what the system produced. Scenario analysis. You flex the drivers, you change things. The solution enables you to save the versions, look at different scenarios, compare them over time. Very, very powerful. So the what ifs, and you can do as many what ifs simulations, scenarios as you want, whereby that helps you now navigate, flex, look at the totality of different outcomes based on changing all the different drivers, leading to the what ifs that hopefully then leads you to some actionable playbooks. So when you hit that point, we saw it on the reporting, you go through the threshold, you've already simulated a lot of this, and you have an operational playbook in place to help you drive better decision making and make decisions and make changes. Reporting, quickly go through this here. Within NetSuite EPM, there's various ways we can do reporting. Smart View, it's a very powerful Excel interface, very flexible, easy to create, connects directly to the database. Look and feel is Excel. Dashboards, I think we know what those are, the visualizations, the KPIs, but it pops. It's right in front of you, highly interactive. Again, easy to configure and create. Management reporting is more conformed, the notion of pixel perfect. This is something that you want to look exactly the same every time. Your specific logo, formatting, from the Pantone matching system, whatever color you need, very, very structured and readily then used for distribution out in the organization. Narrative reporting is a capability that helps facilitate collaboration when you're pulling together some different data sets, say into a management package. And again, pretty powerful into the broad construct of reporting capabilities. Smart View. So when we talked about, do people use Excel? In some sense, when you're looking at a solution like this, and maybe you've already been through an implementation, you're going, well, I use Excel. Well, you are, but it's Smart View. It provides the rich superset of Excel capabilities that we know and love and never want to let go of, but you're connected to the central repository. You're always up to date, and they're seamlessly connected. You can slice, dice, pivot, drill across different hierarchies. You can move up, you can move down, you can move around, have different roll-ups. You can create alternate hierarchies, extremely powerful. Also used for input of information. We said earlier, the different reporting capabilities, but I certainly don't want to diminish the value of Smart View, because this is a window into the world of this solution that just has that look and feel and power of Excel, but the integral connection to the underlying database. You're part of the system. You're not working in a fragmented labyrinth of offline. Predictive planning. This is something pretty interesting, as I'm remembering back in my day when I used to do some modeling a long time ago, where you looked at certain stochastic algorithms and said, let me go back across the historical data and let the system choose the best fit algorithm as my starting point for that plan. So you can see here, you could seed a forecast just based on that history and create a different scenario, the predicted scenario versus, say, the bottoms up scenario. Allows you to do variance comparison, allows you to greatly facilitate best case, worst case, base case type modeling. You can store the data. You can also have auto predict based on that information. Something that we're not showing here is, with this type of capability in mind, the solution also allows you to do a little more forensic investigation on outliers. Using similar capabilities embedded in the solution, you can start to investigate forecast bias. So using this as a trending point over time with what the planners do, you can start to tease out, well, maybe that group is always conservative or that group is always too aggressive. Certain things like that is just extremely helpful from an FP&A and finance function to better improve over time the notion of a continuous improvement around planning, forecasting capabilities. I'm going to talk a couple foundational pieces here that what really makes an implementation successful. And I know we touched on this a little bit earlier, but change management. It is so paramount to any business transformation, and specifically ones when we're dealing in the finance realm. At the outset, just starting and acknowledging we actually need a strategy around change. We're humans. A lot of us don't want to leave the Excel spreadsheet, don't want to leave the model, don't want to leave our old process. Being upfront as an organization and setting the stage and thinking about that change journey. And that really starts with a North Star. Where are we going as an organization? What are the guiding principles? And what are we really trying to achieve by virtue of the transformation? doing a stakeholder assessment and impact analysis and resistance analysis, being very specific around the audiences and the individuals who will be impacted around the future state, and assess that. Business readiness. At a point in time, you're going to have to say, is the business really ready for the change? And what can we do to train and communicate and bring them along the journey? Having a governance and support structure. What does all this mean? This is not just we do a couple assessments and we do some communications and make it go. This needs to be embedded into the DNA of the project program and then the ongoing support for the solutions. End user training and communication. You can't say enough about the communication. Different methods, different content, different frequency. And then finally, the execution. Actually doing it and making it work as part of the program and project. So this is really, I always consider that this is a bit of the secret sauce, and there is a tendency not to say it's not needed, but almost it's the last thing. You've got 10 important things, this becomes number 11. This needs to be at the forefront, and you need to invest to ensure it's there such that you optimize adoption and return on investment of the solution. Quickly here about getting started. Presenting here an assessment and mobilization framework, we do recommend this for many organizations. Is like, how do you get started? As opposed to just diving right in from the high dive, step back and do some baselining around your current state, then envision where you want to be, synthesize, understand, codify the future state vision, understand the gaps between the current and the future state, and then develop an intentional plan. This does take some time, but these can be done in a very rapid, short cycle way, such that you come out with an intentional roadmap for your transformation. You know what you're doing first, second, and third, and why. You understand the dependencies, and you can implement and make your very detailed planning in accordance with that roadmap. Here is a capabilities assessment that is something that we've done with clients to visualize across all these different domain areas and important business elements. Where are you today, current state, and some measure of commentary. You can rank yourself, then say you're doing phases of projects, and it might just be one project, but how far is that going to move us? And where do you optimally want to be in a future state, that target future state? This can be very, very compelling and help your leadership team and help all of you, one, baseline where you are, two, establish how much further are we going to progress based on the initiatives and projects we're doing, three, what's our target end state and why? So this is very powerful. This happens to be one that's a little bit more oriented towards FP&A, but you could absolutely do this from a controllership, accounting, whatever the domain area is. But the framework, the metaphor, again, very, very powerful and allows you to measure progress over time, allows you to course correct, but also then have the quantitative and qualitative elements at the end of the day that demonstrate the value and success of the program. Last point here, we're going to speak to a roadmap. And this is something I fundamentally have such a strong advocate for. Most successful transformations are more than just an initial project or a phase. Sometimes you can have the big bang approach and get everything done that you need, but often you're going to have a few projects on the journey. And that roadmap, again, is your playbook. So you think about the coaching analogy or the music analogy, the conductor, you know, the coach of the football or basketball team or whatever sport you're in. But it's something where you know where you're going. It doesn't mean it's set in stone. And in fact, the opposite is true. You will adapt, you will change over time. Your business may change, the dynamics may change, the priorities may change, but you know where you're going. You're very intentional, you know the dependencies across all the different domain areas, and you can adjust, you can move around the pieces, but it's just a great way to get started on that business transformation journey. I guess we're up for polling question number 4. Okay, Liz.
Thank you so much, Philip. Really neat to see the maturity model slide that you shared there. We have our 4th polling question on the screen. The question is, within that time frame, if any, does your company intend to implement a new or enhanced EMP solution? So do you have a time frame? Perhaps your company has already implemented. Maybe you have something on the horizon this year, maybe before the end of the year you're planning to get this up and running, or maybe it's something you're looking out a little bit further next year perhaps, and it's on your horizon. So interested to hear from you. Maybe you don't have plans, but if you don't have a solution in place, certainly, as you said, Philip, you consider yourself to be a technology evangelist for finance and accounting, and this is the way of the future.
Absolutely. I think it's, I like to characterize it as it's not if, it's more of when. And I like to think also the time to start is now. It doesn't have to be this enormous, complex, big dig, nuclear powered mousetrap. Organizations can get started in a very measured way. They can have first project and deliver tremendous value against your overarching goals and get a W, get a win. We often find that in organizations that are reluctant to move forward, demonstrating success and finding the advocates, finding the ambassadors, finding those change agents help, and then say, wait a minute, what did you do? We did ABC, this project. We implemented a core financial planning solution. So you were able to reduce cycle time, you were able to make it more effective, you freed up time for your people not to have to work 12-hour days, whatever it is. Absolutely. Well, I want to be part of the next thing. Bring me along. So getting those victories and getting the demonstrated success is a very, very powerful way to overcome the inertia or overcome the skepticism, and then build momentum and get kind of that classic S curve of accelerated, I want more.
Absolutely. And looking to see the responses to the polling question, it's pretty close to a 40%, 60%. And of the 40% who are open-minded and ready for EPM, 16% of the audience today has already implemented the solution. 12% of our audience looks like they have plans to implement something new or enhanced by the end of the year. And 9% of you, close to 10%, looking ahead at doing this after this year. So I think that's a great mix, because we imagine that we probably have some consultants with us who wouldn't necessarily put this in place at their own company, but they likely would be influencing or helping other companies with some of these best practices. So we certainly recognize that it might not be for everyone depending on your role, but if you are in a company that can benefit from the structures that Philip has talked about today, just certainly we're here to encourage you that, like Philip said, you don't just start by the whole project, start small and demonstrate the success.
With that in mind, Carissa and myself, open invitation. Please reach out to us. As I said, I'm an evangelist and I've done this for a long time. Increasingly, I become even more passionate about the value of implementing these solutions, about the value of adopting leading practices and best practices, and actually adapting and configuring them for your organization. So please reach out. This is something we just love talking about, love doing, and love helping clients. There's so many different ways to help and to navigate and to move things forward. Yeah, that's where we're here. We're here for you. So please reach out.
Well, thank you, Philip, and thank you, Carissa, for making your contact info available. I did include that in the follow-up email. We don't have time for questions. It looks like we have one question that's pretty specific to contract management. So we'll make sure that you get that question and you can have a chance to touch base with Jacqueline directly to help answer that question. So I know that you'll have a good answer for that. As we get ready to close, we do want to make sure to remind everyone that you can access your CPE certificate from your Corsa dashboard. We will be taking the recording and uploading that to your Corsa dashboard later today. So if you want to take a look back or share this with your team, we certainly encourage you to do that. When you close the GoToWebinar control panel, we would love your feedback. The course survey will pop right up on your screen. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a quick minute and providing feedback, that would be very helpful. NetSuite has many great programs coming up. There will be one just about to be announced for the end of April, and then we'll also be talking about automation for month-end close and procure to pay at the very beginning of May. So We hope you'll join us. Thank you so much to Philip and Carissa at Peloton Consulting Group, and thank you to NetSuite for making today's webinar possible, and we'll look forward to having you back with us again soon. Thanks so much and take care.